The Winnipeg Jets lost Game 4 of their first-round series versus the Vegas Golden Knights on Monday night by a score of 4-2. For the second game in a row, one of the Jets' top players left the game with an injury early on. Game 3, it was Josh Morrissey, and Game 4, Mark Scheifele. We'll have more on Game 4 on Tuesday's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Hustler, streaming here on YouTube at 1 p.m. Central Time and available on podcast. I chatted with CJOB's Skylar Peters about the Jets' Game 4 loss, but before we get to that discussion, I want to ask you, what did you think about the game? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Skylar, how's it going? How was your evening?
This one was a little bit nicer than the others in terms of scenery. Out in Kelowna, a little bit of vacation action, but result was a bit of a tough one for Winnipeg Jets and their fans. So leads to a must-win Thursday night. I wish it was under better circumstances, but lots of storylines in this Game 4 defeat for the Jets at home tonight.
Yeah, lots to get to. I think overall it was a great effort, but fell just short. And the number one story coming out of the game, it has to be Mark Scheifele injury. Opening minutes, great pass from Blake Wheeler to Mark Scheifele. He's all alone with Brossoit. You think he's going to put the Jets on the board, makes a move. Brossoit stops the puck, but puts out his stick as well and trips Mark Scheifele. And he went very hard into the boards. You could hear it. Did not look good. Came out for the power play later on, tried to shoot. Didn't really get much on the shot and went off. Just a tough break here. 2 games in a row for the Jets, where one of their top players goes out on one of their first shifts, played under 2 minutes. Again, just a tough one there for Mark Scheifele.
Yeah, it was like a little bit of deja vu. Obviously, you're talking about Josh Morrissey, who left in Game 3 after, I think, 1:44 of time on ice. Came back on after the shift that he got injured and tried it out again. I'm pretty sure the Jets were on the power play at that time, and it was super short. He was super noticeable in terms of the pain he was dealing with, and then we never saw him again. Mark Scheifele tonight, 1:40, I'm pretty sure, in time on ice, like very, very similar. And same thing, came back out on the power play, tried to shoot that puck, and you could just tell it just wasn't there. When Scheifele, he came up off the ice there after that initial collision with the boards. He stayed down low, won a puck battle down low, tried to get the puck out front. Things didn't work out, and I thought really he'd be okay there. Maybe that's just some adrenaline going from that breakaway and having such a big chance early in the game. But for him to stay out on the ice, and I think he did a button hook in the neutral zone too, and got the puck in deep, or his line mates did, before he finally chose to come off the ice for that change. And then, of course, we saw him again for just a matter of seconds on the Jets' first power play of the night, and that was it. So, from this team that we had in January, the Winnipeg Jets now down 4 big contributors in Mark Scheifele, Nikolai Ehlers, who could be back on Thursday, and would that be ever a huge boost for the Jets in a must-win situation, Josh Morrissey, and Cole Perfetti as well. So it's pretty tough sledding right now for a team that's down 4 players out of their top pairing and 2 top lines. It's that's a lot of attrition that a team's got to deal with down 3-1 in the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough play. Coming into the game, the big storyline was Nikolai Ehlers. We're waiting to see what was going on with him. Would he play? Would he not play? And he didn't practice, so I think that answered your question. And Josh Morrissey, we knew wasn't going to go in. Logan Stanley drew in, didn't play a ton of minutes. Logan Stanley, and it was Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, who also didn't play a ton of minutes. He played 5:14 in for David Gustafsson. Logan Stanley 8:58. Mixing in on the third pair there. But you're down. First of all, let's talk about the play where Mark Scheifele goes in. I'm seeing some people online thinking it was tripping by Laurent Brossoit. Did you think it was a trip there by Brossoit?
No, I saw that discourse too, and Scheifele goes in, I believe, on his backhand. He tries to make that move to the outside, regardless, and Brossoit is going all puck there. He sticks out his paddle kind of on the outside, and I'm pretty sure he hits the puck first. And as soon as you do that, it's an unfortunate play, but really it's on Scheifele at that moment. Brossoit is absolved of any wrongdoing because he's making a play on the puck first. And it'd be the same if any player makes a play on the puck and then, another player trips over his stick too. Just because you're the goalie, you don't get played by a different set of rules. So it's a high-speed play. Scheifele's going to the outside there. We see a lot of players now, and I think Connor McDavid actually does this better than anyone. He did it a lot in junior. He'll kind of stop at the net. And maybe that reduces a bit of the injury risk because that's a guy that can skate. I mean, he's probably the fastest skater in the league. He certainly is when he has the puck on his stick. Mark Scheifele is going full steam ahead, and you can't fault him. I mean, that's a big moment early in the game, and I know I was kind of standing up on the edge of my seat. Remo, you were there. I'm sure you and about 14,909 others were as well at Canada Life Center. Just a moment that didn't work out in terms of not scoring the goal, and now the Jets lose a 40-goal scorer in the process, and just a brutal turn of events for a team that looked to get out in front and get back in this series. They did end up getting that first goal of the game, but then surrendered the next three in this what ended up being a 4-2 loss.
Yeah, I mean, such a tough loss. Mark Scheifele third, on the team in points, 68-81, the leading goal scorer. Just a devastating loss. And I watched the replay a couple times when I got home, and I agree. I think Brossoit was going for the puck. Definitely unfortunate, but he went to the board so hard. I was surprised he didn't go off right away. He did take a turn and came back and thought he was fine, but clearly was not. So that was rough. And I do want to say I was at the game. I went to the game, the first game, game 3 here, the first game here, game 3 in the press box, and then tonight I was in the seats. And what an atmosphere coming into the game. Full credit to the Jets, production team. I love all the whiteout graphics. They got the in-house hosts, get everyone pumped up. That 5-minute countdown from after warm-up to, until they come out. Electric. Everyone's waving their towels, getting loud. What an atmosphere. And I think that's something that needs to be experienced by any Winnipeg sports fan. And it was just as awesome tonight as it was for game 3. Unfortunately, didn't get off to the start they wanted in terms of Mark Scheifele getting injured. However, they did get on the boards first, and the power play, which really has had so many opportunities over the last couple of months to help out the Jets, helped them out tonight. They did score 2 power play goals, and it was Blake Wheeler. Element of surprise there. Not known to shoot a ton, but he picked the corner there on Brossoit. I mean, what a great play by Blake Wheeler, who's had an impressive playoffs, doing all he can to get the Jets on the board.
Yeah, I love it. Power play's not really working for you. Who needs Kyle Connor? Who needs Pierre-Luc Dubois, who ended up getting power play goal later in the game, sort of. And Blake Wheeler, who's been the dish man for, 10 years in Winnipeg, he says, I'm just going to rip this one. Beautiful shot across the crease. Kind of took advantage of maybe some bad angle play by Laurent Brossoit and snapped that one just inside the post. And you could tell that was maybe a focus of the Jets. And, we won't hear this from Coach Rick Bowness or any of these guys, maybe after the series is over or something like that. But Wheeler got that puck on the half wall. I think it was Neil Pionk who was at the top of the point on this power play, usually where Josh Morrissey would be. Got that puck down low. You could tell he's kind of flat-footed. He's kind of looking for a pass. Nothing really there. And Vegas has done a great job of chewing up the middle of the ice. There has not been those cross-ice passes that we're used to seeing, even that we saw in 2018, with Patrick Laine on the other side for the Winnipeg Jets on this power play. Didn't really have much of an option. Went back to Pionk. I think Wheeler kind of went back towards the wall, and then he started making his way back inside, and his feet were moving. And this time he gets the puck right back for Pionk, turns toward the net, and he's in a great shooting position all of a sudden because his feet are moving, kind of right in the high slot, just a little bit off to the right side. And yeah, like you said, element of surprise. And LB knows that, right? Laurent Brossoit has been at many a Jets practice over the past few years. So he's probably looking for a guy far post for a tap-in or something like that, not for Wheeler to bury it. So I love that. And that was the start of what I think is probably Blake Wheeler's best game of the season for the Winnipeg Jets. I think he was the Jets' best forward tonight and started with that goal, and he had that energy carrying through with him all night. He didn't look a step behind like he somehow does, and you can't fault him for being a step behind at times, just given his age. But he was really driving the play in the absence of some big players. and one of his regular line mates in Mark Scheifele. So all the credit to 26 tonight.
Yeah, I thought he was great in game one and here tonight as well. And it was with Mark Scheifele's absence, it was Kevin Stenlund who saw a lot of increased minutes. He does play shorthanded.
Like there was like two Blake Wheelers on the ice there. Like you couldn't at times I couldn't tell who was who. The numbers are too similar. They're the same size and they kind of look the same, and it's just so confusing.
Yeah, since day one at training camp, when I saw Stanley rocking 20, I thought it was Wheeler, tall, lanky guy with 2 as starting his number. It's pretty wild. That was Wheeler from Pionk. You mentioned Niederreiter, who I thought had a nice game too with an assist. You thought the Jets scoring first, gives you a really good chance of winning, but they didn't hold the lead for too long. About 5 minutes later, Brendan Dillon goes to keep the puck in at the Jets blue line. He keeps it in, but it's intercepted. And the next thing you know, Vegas is on a 3-on-2, and Brett Howden, he goes to shoot it. Neil Pionk blocks it, and the puck goes right back to Howden, and he just buries it pretty much one-on-one with Hellebuck. I mean, I can't really fault Hellebuck for that one. It's another tough bounce where a guy shoots the puck, gets blocked, and Pionk's down and out and not really able to recover there.
Yeah, that's a tough play. It's really hard to critique anybody in that moment. And I thought Neil Pionk was the Jets' best defenseman by a long shot tonight, and he did a fantastic job of basically doing the impossible and filling in for the Jets' most important skater this year in Josh Morrissey. Does what he's tasked to do there. Blocks a shot off the rush. Just some great speed by Howden, and this is what Vegas has really done all series ever since game 2 at least. And, just kind of followed right up on it. Brendan Dillon is taking his guy to the post. And there was a back-checking forward there, and I think the Jets actually had numbers because that started as a 3-on-2 coming back for Vegas after, some decent offensive zone possession by the Jets. And Howden kind of took control after getting that pass to the blue line. And there was a forward, I can't think of who it was now, was taking his man to the net. And that maybe would have been an opportunity for Dillon to step up, but that's just a bang-bang play. That just happens so quickly. You can't fault Pionk, certainly. You can't really fault Dillon for not reacting that fast. That's just one of those things you see on a replay. And then, of course, you can't fault the goaltender because he's preparing for the first shot, and it didn't come. So really tough break for the Jets there. They find themselves tied 1-1 all of a sudden, and still in good position because I thought they responded pretty well after that too. But unfortunately, the pucks kept going in the wrong net there for a couple more.
Yeah, at the end of the first period, Pierre-Luc Dubois had that chance at the side of the net. The puck came to him, and he had on a stick, kind of hesitated a little, waited, tried to slam it in there short side, and Brossoit had it covered up. They did have some good pressure at the end, but again, were not able to score. Second period started, Dylan DeMello takes a penalty, and this is where you're like, okay, they don't have Mark Scheifele. This has got to be a Connor Hellebuck game, and he really stepped up, coming over his end, making some big saves on Jack Eichel, and you felt that it was going to be Connor Hellebuck's night. However, it wasn't meant to be. Pierre-Luc Dubois takes another penalty, and if you've listened to Winnipeg Sports Talk the last couple shows, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, Hustler has been saying to bet the over on Dubois penalty minutes, which seems to me as an absurd bet. But he did have a couple minors last game, and there he was tripping Jack Eichel. I know fans at the Canada Life Center were booing, but I think Eichel had him beat, and Dubois seemed like he accidentally on purpose got his skate tied up with Eichel's skate. I don't know where you land on that one, but it seems like Dubois maybe taking a bit too many penalties here last couple games.
Yeah, and this first line, we'll get into the what the Jets might have to do coming up in Game 5 with how their forward lines are situated and all that. But this first line's brought a lot of energy, I think, in the last couple of games. Like if you're relying on a line to get into the offensive end and get some possession and at least get some shot attempts, not necessarily getting the best possible shots on goal, it has been this line with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And we've kind of been waiting for them to break through, especially a lot of people now probably looking at Kyle Connor to do so. But they've been playing with a ton of energy. And I just think that, for Pierre-Luc Dubois is a guy that has always kind of played on the edge. Like when I characterize his game, I call him an animal, and I mean that in an endearing way. because he's all over the place. He can play the physical game. He's always mixing it up after the whistle, and he's an offensive threat. And now it's 2 games where Pierre-Luc Dubois is just kind of set on making a hit, and the player beats him, and it's one of his, like, it's Pierre-Luc Dubois' leg that ends up, these are dangerous plays. The one in game 3 more so, which I believe was on Mark Stone, but correct me if I'm wrong, Remo. This one on Jack Eichel wasn't as egregious, but if you miss, if you're going to miss the body on body with the top half, anything above the belt line, and you're going to hit a guy with your leg, and you're the guy making that hit, you're going to get called for at least a trip or a knee if it's a knee contact, in the league, and that's not a call that the officials miss. It's not a, we talk about the consistency with the stripes all the time. That's not one that's been an issue with them over the years. So 2 games in a row with Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I'm sure that's something that he'll notice and the coaching staff will notice, and it's hard to tell a guy like that, how to adjust, especially when you're going into a must-win game, and he's going to be hell-bent on setting the tone, whatever way it is, physically or on the score sheet at the start of Game 5 here in Vegas on Thursday. So, yeah, it's a tough circumstance, and of course that leads to the Vegas goal on the power play that made it 2-1, and Vegas never looked back after getting that lead.
Yeah, just as it was about to expire, Marchessault shot from the left side, Carlson in front, and gets his skate on it and redirects it through Hellbuck's pad. They did review it. Now, I was there. I wasn't sure if they reviewed it for interference or, kicking motion. He just turned his skate and went off his skate and in. You're allowed to do that in interference. He's not in the blue paint at all. So, was reviewed. It was a good goal. I didn't think there was any reason to overturn it, but, you're in a hole. And as you said, they got the lead and didn't look back. It was like less than a minute later. Vegas goes down, and Shea Theodore takes a shot from the left, just below the blue line, goes off Barbashev's stick and top corner, and now it's 3-1, and the Jets are really behind the 8 ball, and you're already missing, Ehlers and Perfetti and Morrissey coming in the game, but now also Mark Scheifele, and you're just in a really tough spot against this first place Vegas team.
Yeah, it wasn't a good feeling. It certainly wasn't a good feeling with me, my mom, my dad sitting at this bar in Kelowna, BC, like knowing that we're all down these guys. And I'm sure, most of the folks who knew what was going on with the state of the Jets roster at that point were probably pretty dismayed after, giving up a 1-goal lead and turning it into a 2-goal deficit. But then after that, I thought the Jets put forth a pretty good effort. To end the second, they had a couple good shifts here and there. But in the third, they got that early goal from Dubois, and then they kind of really pushed on from there. And I don't think anyone can fault them for how this game turned out, really, just based on who they're missing. It's really tough, and the second periods have not been kind to the Jets ever since the puck dropped on Game 2. I'd like to go see. The goal differential's got to be, it's got to be +6 for the Vegas Golden Knights over the last 3 games in the second period or something like that. And the shots got to be very well in their favor. Maybe it's the late starts or something like that for the Jets, but they seem to really just kind of fall behind in these second periods and dig themselves these holes that they couldn't climb out of, certainly in Game 2. They tried their best to on Saturday afternoon in Game 3, and just couldn't do it tonight either.
Yeah, shots on goal in the first period, 10-8 Vegas, and in the second period, 11-8 Vegas. There was one chance, everyone in the arena thought it was in, like you said, where I was sitting. Brendan Dillon had a rebound on the side of the net. I don't know if he missed it or, it definitely went wide. I know that it didn't go in, but it was an unfortunate play. And as you said, third period starts, the Jets finally get a power play. Michael Amadio holding against Mason Appleton, and kind of a similar play. Blake Wheeler has it at the dot, goes to shoot, bounces off Brossoit. Like, this is one of the most bizarre goals I've ever seen. Dubois whacks at it, goes up in the air, and it was, who was it? Pietrangelo goes to glove it down and I think whiffs on it, and it just bounces in this small window behind Laurent Brossoit in the net, and it was the break the Jets needed, a power play goal, at a key time that they haven't gotten in the final months of the year. And you thought, hey, maybe are we in for another comeback again? Just maybe one of the most bizarre goals you've ever seen, and that was That was a bounce the Jets needed.
Yeah, I always, I see that one, and I think back to the 2013 Western Conference Final, and I actually think I mentioned this on the pod with you a couple days ago. It was a kind of a jump ball, same thing, right in front of Ryan Miller's crease, and Andrew Shaw headbutted a goal in for the Chicago Blackhawks
I remember that.
in double overtime, and it didn't count. But it was like just the most awesome goal. Like it's just so funny. I'm like, is this a rule? Like, can you do that? And it's like kicking the puck in the net. You can't headbutt a goal in the net. But yeah, I mean, this is a bizarre one. It's just like Pietrangelo doesn't have to jump up and play that puck, right? And I don't know if it was his stick or somebody else that, like, this puck was kind of fluttering at head height, and then somebody batted it straight up into the air. And Pietrangelo is probably the tallest guy in this vicinity of players, for sure. And he's looking up. He's already got his arm outstretched. And then he decides to jump for some reason, like it's a tip ball in the NBA. And he misses. Yeah, he just straight up whiffs on it. And, pucks are hard to hit. Like, you're used to them being on the ice. So I get it. Like, he's not a basketball player. He's not Giannis Antetokounmpo on, a jump ball here. And then it just kind of falls in. And then I'm sure the energy in the rink, Remo, really flipped. Like, I kind of felt re-energized too. And then you were just kind of wondering, what could happen. We had just witnessed the Toronto Maple Leafs mount that 4-1 comeback in the third period. And I was like, okay, here comes another comeback. Edmonton did it 2 nights ago, or a night ago. Toronto did it earlier this night. Now here's the third Canadian team that's going to find their way out of a big hole and send us to OT and hopefully get something done. And it wasn't meant to be, but one of those goals that you really wish could have just propelled this team to find a way, and maybe we'd be talking about a lot different outcome. But those goals are going to happen for both sides in the playoffs, and it's too bad this one didn't lead to better things for the Jets.
It really did re-energize the crowd. The one chant that happened multiple times tonight at the arena was "You're a backup." I don't know how you feel about the "You're a backup" chant to Brossoit. I think it was funny. I think at a time he was Connor Hellebuyck's backup, but right now he is the starting goaltender for the first place Vegas Golden Knights, who are about to take a 3-1 series lead, and did eventually do that. He said after the game it was just fuel. But I think you could make an argument that Brossoit has actually outplayed Connor Hellebuyck in this series. And you look at expected goals. I mean, Hellebuyck's goals saved above expected was minus 1.32, and Brossoit was in the positive. Part of it, I think, is how Vegas plays. And you saw the Jets as they tried to come back, so many of their shots from the outside, and they just make it so hard to get it inside and get quality shots in those key scoring areas.
Yeah, and Vegas has been doing this ever since they've had to start leaning on Laurent Brossoit. I mean, this guy didn't lose a game in his last 11 starts in the regular season, right? Like, this team's clearly playing for him, and Vegas is kind of setting the blueprint defensively for how the Jets could be playing in front of Connor Hellebuyck. It's not really that's not really how they've played to this point this year. The Jets have, but I mean, Vegas is doing a fantastic job at just keeping everything outside. There haven't been really many second opportunities. Like, I can't think of a good scramble in front of the net like the one where Adam Lowry scored the tying goal in Game 3 in the the dying moments. There really wasn't any of those chances for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. They're directing everything from the point at times, which is fine. But you don't have a whole lot of dynamic play back there. I think Neil Pionk's been good. Logan Stanley had a couple of chances at the blue line that I think he didn't really take advantage of tonight in his limited minutes. And you can only ask so much out of the Nate Schmitz and the Brendan Dillons and those guys. Like, that's not what they are put on this team to do, right? So it's been very impressive by Vegas to play in front of Laurent Brossoit. And then Laurent Brossoit himself, yes, I think he has been the better goaltender than Connor Hellebuyck. If you look at pure stats alone, the stats are certainly in his favor. Hellebuck's best game was his first one, and that was basically a night off by his standards after only facing 17 shots, right? So Brossoit's been better, and he's not a backup. Vegas brought in Jonathan Quick, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, to shore this goaltending situation up heading into the playoffs. And Jonathan Quick is basically got just a bit better seat than you, Remo, watching this game right now. They showed him on the Sportsnet broadcast a couple of times. He's sitting in the tunnel. You don't even get to sit on the bench when you're a backup for the visiting team in Winnipeg. Like, this is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion goaltender who was acquired at the trade deadline because he had something to offer this team, and Laurent Brossoit is outplaying him. Laurent Brossoit is the starting goaltender for this Vegas team. I get it. They've had 5 goaltenders at times this year. They had an all-star goaltender in Logan Thompson, who's not playing, obviously, due to injury and is not a factor in this series. And the guys are playing for him, and Laurent Brossoit has been just as good himself. So I love the idea. I love the chance. We used to have a bunch of those for Martin Jones when he was with the Medicine Hat Tigers at West Hobo Place. Brandon Wheat Kings fans were feeding it to Martin Jones all the time. I remember those vividly. Goalie chants are great, but it's just a bit misguided. And we'll see. Hopefully for Jets fans, Laurent Brossoit has a tough night in Game 5, and then they might have a little bit more fuel to the fire on Saturday when they can fire those back up at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, they followed up with the standard Brossoit, which I liked, but couldn't really rattle him. They had a lot of chances at the end, some good pressure. Seemed like they were just firing it on net from everyone, trying to hope for that Adam Lowry-like play in front. Didn't end up happening. Time ran out. They did have the play, 3:47 left. Mark Stone just dancing through everyone. It was an unbelievable play, and he hit Brett Howden, who shot it wide. I mean, would have been a highlight reel goal. Thankfully, for the fans there, he didn't score, and the Jets were able to get some more chances. But again, I just felt like they had so much trouble getting it on net. A lot of D-to-D passes where there was just no lane to shoot, and they're kind of passing it to the outside. You look at the block shots. What is it? They had like 20-something block shots here. I had it 23 block shots for Vegas. I think that's just a story. It's just been, you saw it in overtime in Game 3. Just such difficulty getting shots on net against this Vegas team.
Well, the Jets have dominated possession. Like, I feel like they're the ones that always have the puck on their stick. And sometimes they do have trouble getting through the neutral zone, which has been a bit of an issue ever since Game 1. They were really direct in Game 1, and Vegas has made some great adjustments, and they're making Winnipeg have to kind of pick and choose where they want to get over the line here. And they might get over the line with numbers, but, they're quickly, take it to the outside and then have to throw this down deep. There are not a lot of, grade A chances. Like the Mark Scheifele one, the pass from Blake Wheeler, was the only one that you could kind of see coming, and that was because Zach Whitecloud jumped to try and get a loose puck, and he found himself out of position on that Mark Scheifele chance that ended up leading to his injury on that breakaway. Ever since then, Winnipeg just, when they're entering the zone, they're not doing it with a ton of speed. They're doing it kind of laterally and then trying to get something sustained, which they've done at times. But it's not the same recipe that's led the Vegas Golden Knights in the other end of the ice to what is now a 3-1 series lead. So that and the one thing, there's been a lot of discourse about Mark Scheifele's skating ever since he came back from injury. He's been so effective for the Vegas Golden Knights, and I don't think anyone's debating that. But a lot of people seem to find this is a good time to talk about how he's, not a great skater and how that, potentially held him back at the draft and all of this stuff. Mark Stone just walked through 3 Winnipeg Jets on that play to Brett Howden, and Brett Howden couldn't find the net, ended up finding it for his empty netter. But if you're like a fan of Brendan Dillon, or I can't think of who the forward was in the neutral zone that missed a stick check, I would just watch what you say about Mark Stone skating. If you're one of those people that have happened to call him out in the past, Winnipeg guy, he's one of the guys I cheer for most of the year. Not really right now, but he certainly knows where to go on the ice. He might not do it with a ton of speed, but that was pretty silky by Mark Stone to get that one over to Brett Howden on that. What ended up being an odd man rush on the empty net. So I just kind of laughed at that because he weaved his way through the neutral zone pretty nicely there.
Yeah, he definitely picked his spot. You mentioned possession, and even in Game 3, they showed like the Jets had more possession than Vegas, but way less shots. And even tonight, the possession at times was even, but Jets, just so much trouble getting those shots on net. It's funny. I'm looking at Money Puck. They have the deserve to win meter with the Jets 57.1%, which I'm kind of surprised by, but I think it just shows you, and which we all agree that, even without Mark Scheifele, without Ehlers, Morrissey, this team played their ass off, gave themselves a chance to win, and fell short against a very good Vegas team. As we wrap this up, A couple notes here from the Jets. Blake Wheeler, 5 points in the series. We talked about the 2 power play goals, the penalty kill. I officially went 2 for 2, but that second one was like just right after it expired. And Neil Pionk, 7 assists in the playoffs, 4th in the playoffs in points, 2nd assist, 27-28 ice time. I mean, he took a lot of criticism during the year, but these last 2 games, I mean, he's been awesome filling in for Josh Morrissey. So a great effort tonight for the Jets. Fell just short, and it's going to be real tough here going in Game 4. They're going to have to figure out the lines. They said after Mark Scheifele is going to be evaluated tomorrow, which I guess technically today when this comes out at around 2:30 a.m. on the 25th. So we'll have to see what the Jets look like, but they're looking to win 1 and take this series back to Winnipeg for a Game 6.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do up front. I mean, they're probably going to roll the same 6 guys out on defense. I don't really see what change, if they put in Kyle Capobianco ahead of Logan Stanley. I don't think that really offers the Jets anything more. I thought Stanley had some good moments tonight, so I think he would stay on as the Jets' 6th defenseman. Going to be really interesting what they do up front. I'm assuming Carson Kuhlman would be the next guy up. Obviously, you want Nikolai Ehlers back in the lineup, though. And I'm just this is just how I feel about it. I'm not a medical expert. I don't know anything, more than anybody else listening to this podcast. But I feel like Mark Scheifele probably won't play on Thursday. And I do feel like the extra day of rest, right? We're going 2 days off now before Game 5, will really help Nikolai Ehlers, who wasn't cleared to play before this game. It wasn't even up to Rick Bowness whether or not he could, put Nikolai Ehlers in. He couldn't play regardless. So, I think the Jets are going to get maybe a guy back on Thursday and lose a guy. And in terms of your top 6, I think that's a lateral move because Mark Scheifele's been very effective. And Nikolai Ehlers was one of their most dynamic forwards before he got hurt in that final game of the with 2 games left in the regular season, I guess. We'll see what they do in the bottom 6 just to bring another guy in. But it'll be interesting up front. I would think, Remo, would you leave that top line untouched with Niederreiter, Connor Dubois, or do you make a change there just to see something like a different look? Because that's a line that I think has had a ton of possession and looked good at times, but they just haven't really been able to finish and put the puck in the back of the net 5-on-5.
Yeah, I like the combination of the 2 bigger bodies with Niederreiter and Dubois and Kyle Connor. He's the shooter and he's the speed guy. The skinny guy, if this was Nintendo Ice Hockey, and you got the 2 bigger guys who can create space. But Niederreiter lays the body. He can shoot the puck as well. But, that line of 5-on-5 has 0 goals for, 1 goal against. So you do need offense from your top line. And Dubois was credited with that bizarre goal, second power play goal. So some decisions to be made for the Jets. They're in a tough spot. We'll, cross our fingers that Nikolai Ehlers can play, but they are down 3-1 and certainly in a tough spot here going into Game 5 in Vegas. Skylar, thank you so much for joining me from Kelowna. I really appreciate it, and I will touch base with you not Thursday, but in the future. Thanks again for joining me here on the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction.